Welcome to Real Talk for New Agents. I'm your host, Sarah White, and today I've got a very special guest with us, Korin Abdel Sayed from Bonatera Realty. Hello, Korin. How are you?
Hi, Sarah. It's so good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your experience with my listeners. So, I'd like to just get a bit of a background about you and so my listeners know where you've come from. So, when did you get your real estate license?
I got licensed in August of 2024, so it hasn't been a very long time. I had been connected with the broker of record at the brokerage I'm at right now for a while prior to that.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Tell me how you did your first year. So, how many properties did you sell?
So I actually didn't have any listings for sale, but I was representing buyers.
Yes.
I purchased five properties for clients, and I had about seven leases.
That's fantastic. So what's the price point in your area?
Over $1 million.
Oh, so that's really good. You don't need to sell as many when you're in the $1 million range, right?
Yes, that's exactly right. That's the goal.
Well, why don't you tell my listeners how you got into the business of real estate?
So a little bit about myself. I guess I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My father had been an architect growing up, and he'd take me to sites. So he would buy pieces of land and just take me with him throughout the process. So I have always been in love with the process of building, going from the ground up, like digging into the land, and all of a sudden you see a property, high rises, and he would sell each of the units separately. So I saw, I guess I saw value in establishing a place where people can live and a place where they can call home and raise their families and, go through all the ups and downs of life. I just found purpose in that. However, I spent the better part of my life chasing the corporate high. Uh, so I started my career in product management. I was in product management. I was VP of product management all the way until 2023, just trying to work myself up into the corporate ladder until I was burnt out and I realized it was not the thing for me. I didn't find much satisfaction and I didn't feel any kind of accomplishment, even though I made it, so to speak. And then I decided, you know what, let's pursue the thing that I had always been fascinated with and I always felt drawn towards. And there we are. I got my license and I started helping people.
So before you got your license, you were working in real estate, doing investing. You were also flipping
Yes,
some properties.
yes.
And so, when you're successful flipping properties and making money doing that stuff without a boss and running your own show, what makes you want to then get your license and become a real estate agent as opposed to just sticking to the flipping and investing part of real estate?
When you buy and sell real estate, you have to pay commissions. So part of the reason why I got my license was so that I wouldn't have to pay commissions anymore. And also, I saw value in helping people, do the same things that I had been doing, and I found, success in. And because of the play, like the reality of where we live, so we do have. I grew up in Mississauga, so in Mississauga you do have a bunch of areas with really old, beat up homes
Yeah.
on large lots. So there was a lot of potential there for flipping. So I saw value in that on a personal level, and now with my license, I can actually help people do the same, and I provide value there with, the investment analysis and the strategy behind how much you're going to spend and what's your return going to look like. So yeah, I find value working with investors.
Yeah. And I know myself, having flipped some properties, it's sometimes very stressful. Although being an agent is stressful as well, when you're building from the ground up, there's so much that can go wrong, timelines and extra costs and things like that. So it can be overwhelming, once you do it for a while. But you had a really good story that you shared with me as well about what you were doing. Um, with cold calling. So that was
Yeah.
something that you were telling me that you were doing on the side before you got your license. And I want you to share that story because it is something I think 90% of agents do not like doing, myself included. So tell us what you were doing and how that all went down.
I won't lie, I don't like it either. It's one of those things that, you got to do what you got to do. And in the end, you have to keep your eye on the prize.
Yeah. So tell
So,
them what you were doing. Tell them what you were
yeah.
doing.
So it started in 2024. Earlier in 2024, the broker of record had reached out to me and said, I need some help with calling out leads for pre-construction properties. So they had run some ads, and they had a bunch of leads, and they needed someone to call them. So I said, why not? I can help out. I was home. I had left my job at that point, and I knew I wanted to pursue real estate full time. So I thought that's a great place to start. And he gave me, a long list of leads, and I was calling them each one by one, and I had a schedule for them. So I built an Excel spreadsheet, and I was like, okay, I'm going to start, first call on this date, second call on that date. And I would add notes from each of the calls. And I made a couple of sales within 3 months this way. Just, I'm not sure if that's the same thing as cold calling, because these are warm leads.
Yeah.
So people who had been interested in a specific project.
Yeah.
So I was calling. However, the project that they had signed up for at the time was no longer in business. So they had stalled. So
Oh,
I was calling and I was offering help with different projects. So in a way, I guess it is considered cold calling, but I don't like it. I know based on experience that I work towards the 100 no's, and eventually you'll get the yes. So don't give up right before you get that yes. Just keep going, and
yeah.
business will come.
Yeah. And I have one of my podcasts talks a lot about having a CRM when you start. And just like you were using an Excel spreadsheet, you want to keep track of who you're calling, what they're saying, when you're going to follow up so that you don't drop those leads, because your leads were warm, which is fantastic, right? I mean, that's what we all want, but sometimes we have to warm them up. And so that means providing value, but keeping track is so important, isn't it? Did you have a strategy of, how you were going to convert these individuals? What was your strategy?
My only strategy was to build rapport.
There we go. Yeah.
Just call, make friends. I hate salespeople who come off as salesy.
Yeah.
So I do my best not to be that person.
Yeah.
So just build a relationship.
It's tough, right? Yeah. People need to like you, right? You gotta, I mean, they don't even see you. So over the phone, they've got to like you by how you're interacting with them, which is even more difficult. That's why nobody
Yeah.
likes to do it.
Yeah, and you know what? I had a bit of a mindset shift over the past little while, ever since I pursued this career full time, and it's actually it's not that they only have to like me, but I also have to like them. And
Yeah.
once you create that mutual relationship, then it doesn't become work anymore. It's not sales anymore. At
Yeah.
that point, it's you helping a friend, and I think that's when all the magic happens.
Yeah. Have you ever had to fire a client yet?
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
Talk
Yes,
about
yes,
that, because
yes.
you know what? You're a new agent. So let's talk about that, because a lot of the times new realtors feel like, they have to take everything that comes to them because otherwise they're never going to make it. And actually, that could hinder your career if you get in with the wrong person and they leave a bad review, or they're not happy and tell one person, they tell one person, right? So tell us about that share that story, how you fired somebody, because I think this
I
is really important.
100%. And I love that you're asking that question, because I never in a million years did I think that I would do that.
Yeah.
Because I'm, you know, exactly like you said, you're in your first year of real estate. You think you're desperate. You think every single person that approaches you, you have to be available for them. Whenever they call, you have to answer, right?
Yeah.
And that cannot be further from the truth, because um, I encountered a client that I actually, you know, I just found it was a draining relationship. So
Yeah.
this was a client who had approached me based on the word of mouth. And the very first call that we had, the client started telling me bad things about a colleague, right? Like
Mm.
someone else in real estate. She would be like, oh, she never picked up my phone. She never answered my questions. She was hard to reach. And then she ended up blocking me. And in my mind, I was like, well, no matter what I do for you, you're going to turn around and say the same thing about me, because these people are working hard, right?
Yeah.
Like we all in real estate are working really hard. And it broke my heart a little bit that she was doing that. But I didn't listen to my gut,
Yeah.
and I continued with the relationship for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And then I realized that I was spending half my day talking to this one person.
Mm.
And the thing that sort of broke the camel's back, so to speak, was when she had said something and signed the contract based on something. And then the day that I listed her property, she was like, oh, no, that's not what I agreed on. I don't want to pay a cooperating fee. And I was like, that's not how it works.
Wow. Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm so happy that you reached out to me. I'm glad that you found, you know, you found my work good enough that you wanted to work with me. I really appreciate that. Unfortunately, this is not going to work out. And I respectfully have to put down your listing. And that was way out of character.
Yeah.
And it felt like I needed a tremendous amount of courage to do, but it was the
Yeah.
best decision I made for my career, because once you say no to the things that don't bring value to you, you open up the doors to things that, you know, nourish your soul, and that's how you grow as an agent.
Thank you for sharing that, because absolutely, when one door closes, another one opens. And if you're stuck in a dead end air place with a client, you're not opening yourself up to be available for anybody else, because they're just sucking the life out of you. And unfortunately, it happens. And it doesn't only happen to new agents. It happens to new agents. It happens to agents who have been in the field for, 20 years. I've been doing it for 16 years, and I still get that. I mean, I worked with a client who um, was fantastic during the meetup, and we had coffee and we were on the same page. And then, 2, 3 months later, when she was ready to list and we met up, everything was great. But she was going through a stressful time and took it out on me. So I brought her an offer and it wasn't what she wanted, and I got blamed for it. Right. So you have to really understand that people aren't going to change, and you just have to respect yourself enough. And if it means firing somebody, don't be money hungry. Do what you know is best for your business. And as a new agent, I applaud you for doing that.
Thank
Something
you.
else that you mentioned that you did, and I want to talk about it because I'm going to do another podcast on rentals. So, not only were you doing sales, but you also do rentals. There are a lot of seasoned real estate agents that say, I won't do rentals. Now, I don't agree with that, but tell me what your experience is working on rentals and how you feel about it, coming from the investor perspective as well, right?
So to me, again, it's about building that relationship with my clients. It's not a one transaction and you close the door on them. So once someone is an investor, they will always be an investor. So once they list the property with you, you purchase the property for them. That's when the relationship begins. It's not where it ends, right?
Yeah.
So in my mind, I'm working with an investor client at the moment. He has over 10 condos in downtown Toronto. I listed 2 over the past 4 months. Yes, it's not a huge source of income, but that's a huge um, advantage to know this person.
Yeah.
And I know that over time, the more work I do for him, the more he will refer me. He will
Mhm.
refer clients over to me. We're going to build again that rapport, the relationship that's sustainable and mutually respectful, right? I didn't choose to do rentals or not do rentals. I think it's part of the job, because I look at it from a client based perspective. So if I have one client and they have a listing that needs to be leased, I'll do it for them, not because it's a lease, but because I'm working with them, because I care about them.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is fantastic. And guess what? Renters become buyers, especially first time home buyers. There's lots of them wanting to get into the market. And investors trust you when you get them good tenants to invest in other properties and to do more real estate with them. Right. So I
Yeah.
think that's a great opportunity for new agents to practice as well, because you can do a number of rentals and make some good money with the prices right now of rental properties. I mean, you do 3 rentals and it's almost like selling a house because
Yeah.
everything is so expensive. But I mean, it's a great way to practice your skills. Do you agree?
100%. Actually, rentals are way more difficult than purchases.
They
The amount
can
of
be.
time that you spend on a lease doesn't even compare to
Yeah.
the time that you spend on a purchase. So,
And you know what, Corinne? When you get more experience, you will realize the things that you need to do to make the rental business just flow seamlessly. And it will then shift. And rentals are a no brainer because it's easy cash and it doesn't take you that long to do. So that's the point that I'm at right now. I have a lot of investors as well, and I find tenants for them. And, I could do it with my eyes closed. So I never turn away business from anybody because, it's not beneath me to do a rental. I mean, whoever said that finding a tenant is a derogatory thing? I think it's, value, because they're going to buy and your landlord is going to sell that house one day and they will trust you, right?
yeah, 100%. I agree.
Another thing that you do that I also love is you have a global business model. Do you want to share with us what that means, what that is, and how somebody might be able to get into that if they were interested?
I unfortunately I wouldn't be able to speak to the last part of your question because it just landed on my lap. I
Okay.
really don't know. I didn't pursue it. It
Okay.
wasn't intentional. I think a big part of the global outlook that I have as a person before the agent side of me is because I have roots everywhere. So I have my siblings who live in the US. So they own properties in the US. So I had access to that market. I come from the Middle East. So I had clients in the Middle East. So I have roots there and obviously in Canada as well. And like I said, because I work with my clients, whatever I find would bring my clients value, that's what I'll go out and fish. So I'll find them opportunities that make sense for their situation. And sometimes it's outside of Canada, and that's perfectly fine. I'll do the legwork, I'll do the research, I'll do the introductions, whatever will bring value to my clients. That's what I'll do.
So when you're putting together your sphere of influence, you just started the business, you're sitting at your desk and you're writing down all the people you know in your life. You're taking that to the global market. You're saying, anyone I know anywhere, it doesn't matter if they're in my market or not in my market, they're always a potential client, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is fantastic because sometimes, yeah, we're narrow minded, right? Like real estate is global, of course. And if you know people in those markets, even if you're just referring to somebody that you've worked with that can help your clients, you're getting a referral fee. So you're still helping people from wherever you are in the world.
Yeah, which is what ends up happening. I don't sell with boots on the ground whenever I do global transactions. It's really referrals.
Yeah.
So building a wide network is I don't know if it's for everyone. It might not be for everyone, but it is for me. It worked for me. It suits my personality and my approach
Yeah.
and my network as it exists. So I didn't have to make too many changes. And I think I would caution new agents to not step too much outside of what they feel comfortable with. Like, you can stretch yourself a bit, but stay within character.
Yes.
And that's where all the success happens.
Yeah, because you have to be yourself and know what makes you spark,
Right.
and the more that you are knees deep in your favorite either neighborhood or type of property or whatever it is that you love to do, it shows with your work for sure. And do you find that because you were dealing in the investment side of things before becoming an agent, that naturally the people in your sphere of influence are investors and are builders and things like that?
Perhaps. I guess I just started where I was. I didn't,
Yeah.
like I said, I didn't really make too many changes to my existing lifestyle, my network, my sphere of influence. It was just, the decisions that I had made uh, in previous years have led me to where I am now. So it's difficult to give, a list of 5 things that you should do as an agent. But what I will say is just keep working hard and stay true to character. Don't do things that don't match your personality and make you feel too uncomfortable with who you are,
Yeah.
and keep grinding. Like, I think it's experience comes with time and with making mistakes, and that's perfectly okay
Yeah.
as long as you're not getting yourself into legal problems.
That's your broker of
Just
records problem, right?
yeah. Yeah.
Well, and that's true. The 5 things you need to do is something that I can do because I've got, 15, 16 years of experience. You're just on the ground helping the newbies and help me share with them that what I'm saying is true because you've done it and you're experiencing it and you're like, yes, these are the things I needed to do. And you're sharing your story so that other people are feeling encouraged that they're not alone, right? That they are starting just like you and you've made a success by just being true to yourself, right? And you've proven, yes, I can be successful being who I am and working in the environment that makes me happy and firing the clients that I need to fire because they're not going to help me in the long run, right? They're never going to refer you anyway. So why keep them as a client when they can do more damage to your reputation?
Yeah, I think there's an opportunity cost to taking on clients. You just have to consider that when you're saying yes and when you're saying no.
Yeah.
It does take a bit of courage. So
It does. It does. It takes courage and confidence. I think confidence because you have to not have commission breath. You have to have a genuine love for people and helping them whichever way you can. And you can't feel like this is going to be the only thing that's going to pay me this month. So I have to do whatever I have to do. Nobody wants
I
to work
agree.
with somebody like that, right? You
I
want to
agree.
definitely come from a place of giving. And the more you give, the more it's going to come back to you. I believe that 100%.
And I totally agree with you. And I did listen to a bunch of your podcast episodes, and that's exactly how I see it too. So kudos to you as well.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Well, before we wrap it up, I want you to think about this question. So, you're starting new, you're a brand new agent, and you're just past your exam. What piece of advice would you give them that could give them the mindset or the tools? What should they do according, what advice would you give them? One piece of advice.
Shadow someone you respect.
Mm,
Just go everywhere they go. Listen to their conversations. Meet their clients with them.
that is excellent. Now you got to find somebody willing to do that. Sometimes, people who are really busy, I'm a giver, so I would love to do that. So maybe connect with your broker of record and see if they could recommend somebody that may be willing to let you shadow them. Great, great, great piece of advice because my story was, here's your desk, here's your phone, I'm going on vacation. So if I could change it for any one person, you know, just one success story is all I need to make it all worthwhile. But definitely, I agree, Korin. Shadow somebody, get a mentor, get a buddy, anybody that you can connect with right at the beginning that makes you feel comfortable and
Yeah.
is willing to take you through the reins with them.
And honestly, build a network of other people who are in the same boat as you. So I found it really useful and helpful to make friends with the people I did the courses with. And
Yes.
we shared our struggles together in the first few months. And these guys are still my friends until now. We still have a group and a group chat, and we talk about all our challenges, and we refer clients to one another because we don't all live in the same place.
That's
So
another fantastic tip. That's really good because that's true. Whoever's in class with you doesn't necessarily live in your market, right? I mean, there's only one school, and Ontario is a big place. So you're definitely going to meet people outside of your market. Yeah,
exactly.
great idea. Thank you so much, Korin. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to chat with us. If
It's my
anyone
pleasure.
wants to reach you, why don't you tell us where you work? And I know it's globally, but locally, where do you work? And how can they reach you if they wanted to?
I'm on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, on TikTok. Just my handle is my first and last name.
Okay.
So if you do a quick search on any one of these platforms, you'll find me, and I'd love a follow, and I'd love to connect. And I'm similar to you, Sarah. I love to share my experiences because you don't have to go through the same challenges over and over and over again. If I can save people, the heartache, I'm more than happy to do that.
Yeah.
If one of us rises, we all rise.
Yep, absolutely. And our industry can use a great number of people who collaborate and share and raise each other up. So I agree with you 100%. On that
Yeah.
note, I hear your phone.
Sorry.
Thank you, Korin. We
Sorry.
will chat again. I'm sure we will connect. And if you guys want to reach Korin, you know where to follow her on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and all the other social media channels. Until next time, take care and be good to one another.
Thanks, Sarah.
Bye.
Bye.